Y'all were talking
Hello,
about
sir.
Ring of
You're on the
Honor.
air. How are you?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Thank you so
Doing
much for asking and taking time to join us here tonight.
I heard you guys are talking about Ring of Honor, so I guess I'm the guest of honor.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
And
Good
didn't you
way to
actually
look at
spend
that.
some time in Ring of Honor yourself?
What was that again?
You actually trained some guys in Ring of Honor? Well, yeah, I was reading that you were actually part of Ring of Honor at some time.
We were part of the Ring of Honor in the very beginning, like the first 2 or 3 years, I believe. And that was a heck of an experience.
And it's
I can
definitely going
imagine.
to be one of like the best companies in this entire world today.
Yeah, I mean, when we went down there, it was like AJ Styles and Chris Daniels, the SATs, Homicide, Amazing Red.
Wow.
Paul London.
Paul London. I brought Paul London down. I brought down Masada and Hernandez.
Holy cow.
And Michael Shane and Brian Danielson and Brian Kendrick. And then there's some other guys I brought down that didn't quite make the roster, but they made appearances, though. So yeah, I brought quite a few guys up there.
So let's just kind of kick it off and kind of go back. I mean, we'll go back into the training part of it, but I'm curious on how you got your start in professional wrestling. I know that I was reading up that you actually had the opportunity to work with the Guerreros, the Guerrero family. How many of the members did you get to work with at that time when you first broke in, when you got into the business?
Yeah, when I first broke in down here in San Antonio with Joe Blanchard, he brought down Hector, Chavo, Mondo at different times. There were a couple times when all three were down here, and so I got to rub elbows with them a little bit and learn a little bit from each guy. The guy that I'll say that I learned the most from though was Chavo. Riding around with him, being the green guy, I had to drive guys around, and so there were a couple of times where me and him rode together to the towns and stuff, and just talking wrestling, And
I can't even imagine how much fun that was.
Oh well, it's funny because at the time, I listened and I appreciated what he was telling me, but today I appreciated it. I appreciate it even, 100 times more so. Because now I understand, I realize what he was doing and what, the significance of what we were talking about and his family and this business and where his family's been and what part he played and what part I was playing,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Austin, did you have a question for him?
I was going to say, you look at Texas wrestling, you see the Von Erichs, the Guerreros, and they must have a lot of people that you wrestled in Texas that made you, more better each time you stepped in the ring with whoever you're wrestling.
At the time when we were breaking in, you had to know what you were doing. It wasn't like today, you learn as you go. That wasn't how it was then. You had to know the I'm sorry about that. The competition down here, there was like 4 guys, me and 4 of the guys in San Antonio that were fighting for a spot on the card, And we were showing up to shows. We weren't booked. We were just showing up, hoping, and this is shitty to say, but we were hoping somebody wouldn't show up so that we could work. And so every time we got to work, we got, one of my matches was with, what name did it go by? Wayne Ferris. Wayne Ferris later on became the Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got to work with a guy named Ken Timms, Eric Embry, later on, Bobby Fulton. These guys, Buddy Landell, these guys later on, looking back now, it's like, holy cow, I got to work with those guys. And every match was a learning experience. Plus, when I was able to have matches with guys at my level, that were just breaking in, and I was able to get a match in with, whoever else was coming at the same time. When our match was over, somebody, if not everybody, pulled us to the side and said, okay, look, you should have done this differently, you could have done that, here was an opportunity, and you should have done this, blah, 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 whatever. So, every show, every event was a learning opportunity.
So going back into, where you start, before you even started professional wrestling, what was the main influence, like the main thing that got you wanting to do what you're doing?
I'll have to say my high school football coach was a big influence on me wanting to be a coach. Not in pro wrestling, not in the furthest thing when I was in high school. The furthest thing from my mind was pro wrestling. I mean, you hear about like Shawn talked about him and his buddies in high school. Shawn Michaels would go to the backyard and roll around in the backyard, whatever, or in the living room. And I never did that stuff. I wasn't into pro wrestling. I wanted to be a football coach at my high school. I didn't. That's what I wanted to do, was coach football. Somehow or another, I got tied up into wrestling.
How? So you didn't have any interest in it at all?
Not at all. And so somehow or another, I got tied up into wrestling. I knew right away, looking at, I came in at a time when the guys like Chavo Guerrero were kind of, those type of guys. Denny Brown were disappearing, and the Lex Lugers and the Kerry Von Erich guys were emerging. The Sting, the bodybuilder type guys. And that wasn't me. So I knew I wasn't going to be main event in that Starrcade anytime soon or anything like that. So, I learned the business. As a matter of fact, what I told Joe Blanchard was, I want to learn the wrestling business. I didn't tell him I want to be a pro wrestler. I told him I want to learn the wrestling business. And through the years, I've seen how guys have developed. I've seen what has killed guys' careers. I've seen guys die. People that I've sat in the dressing room with. I've seen guys make a lot of money. I've seen guys go broke. I've seen guys make no money, and I've seen them be very happy. I mean, I've been in arenas where there have been 20 people. I've been in arenas where there have been 20,000 people. And so years later, I had actually quit the wrestling business, and then Shawn called me up to say, I want you to be one of the trainers at my school.
Wow.
And so, and I took the position, and so I'm a trainer. I'm a coach, not in football, but I've done so much in this business, and I've seen so much that I have something to pass on. Now, if they were to offer me a coaching position at my school, I wouldn't be able to take it. I have no idea. I don't know anything about high school football no more.
I was going to ask you about that too. How you got your start with? How did you hook up with Shawn about doing the training there? Because I know that he took some time off after he had hurt his back, and somehow, as I was telling Austin, when you're away, you miss it. And although you can't really get into the ring like he couldn't for a while, I'm sure he got in there on occasion just to kind of run the ropes a little bit or something, because just to take away that feeling that he probably missed being a part of the ring, being in the ring. Excuse me.
I learned for the longest time. I had been around, and I'm not dissing nobody. It's just, there's just different levels of guys in this business. And so for the longest time, I'd been around guys that excelled, and then they would hit a point, and then they would not excel anymore. The experience that I got from Shawn, we grew up in the same town. He grew up really not far from where I grew up at, and we never talked to each other. We never, when he broke in a couple of years after I did, and we bumped into each other here and there, but it was never, how's the family, how's the kids, how's your mom and dad, nothing like that. We just knew of each other.
Business partners, more likely, not necessarily good friends, best buddies, but more like business partners.
Acquaintances,
Acquaintances, okay, that's a word.
Yeah, and so when he started the school, he hired Ken Johnson, who actually trained him, and Jose Lothario, who he paid to train him, if you get what I'm saying. And then he, for whatever reason, he called me. And at that point, I had already quit the business for a couple of weeks, a week or so, I guess. And out of the blue, I get a phone call from Shawn. And I'm like I said, I didn't know him that well. I just knew of him. And my phone rings, And I answer it, and he says, "Is this Rudy Gonzalez?" And I said, "Yes." He goes, "This is Shawn." I said, "Shawn who?" He said, "Shawn Michaels." And I was like, "Come on, who is this?" Yeah, you know, I mean, what are you gonna say? Oh, hey, what's going on, buddy? He said, he was like, I'm like, "Who is this?" He goes, "This is Shawn." I said, "Shawn who?" He said, "Shawn Michaels." And I figured it was one of the guys trying to rip me, trying to get me to work another show or something, you know. So I was like, go F yourself, you know. And I hung up on him. And yeah, imagine that, hang up on Shawn Michaels. So he calls back, and I'm like, "Hello." He goes, "Rudy." I go, "Yeah." And he's like, "Don't hang up. This is Shawn." I go, "Shawn who?" He goes, "Shawn Michaels." I'm like, "Well, who is this?" And we went back and forth. "This is Shawn." "No, it's not." "Yes, it is." "No, it's not." "Yes." "What do you want?" "I want to talk to you about running my school." "Shut the F up. You're not going to, what, you know, "Yes, I am." Who else is going to be training there besides just me?" Jose Lothario and Ken Johnson. "Really?" I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He called like in February. Oh, no, he called me in like October, November of 98, and he was going to open a school in April of 99. And so I had just started a job at a warehouse where I was getting paid like $12 an hour, and I was working a bunch of overtime, so I was making decent checks. And so he gave me the lowdown, and he said, the only thing is I can only pay you like $200 a week.
Oh, well, just only, right?
So only. I'm going from like, you know, $600, $700 a week to $200 a week. We've got 3 kids. You know, we're living in an apartment. We're trying to buy a house, and I'm like, let me think about it. And so, you know, long story short, I ended up taking a deal. I had a big fight with the kid's mom, and you know, "How are you gonna do this? You know, how are you gonna do this to us?" And yada yada yada. And so we're training, and Shawn had just had back surgery. I believe he had back surgery like in January of '99. I'm not positive about that, but 4 months. I mean, he had 4 screws in his back. You know, I don't know how painful it really is, but it sounds pretty bad. And June, July, Brian Danielson, Brian Kendrick show up. So he's about 6 months out of surgery, and you know, they're asking questions. "How do you do this? How do you do that?" And Shawn gets in the ring and bumps with them. Shawn gets in the ring and does a moonsault. Shawn got in the ring and did a backflip. And I'm like, you had back surgery? He's like, "Yeah." Look, and he shows me the scar on his back. And,
oh, my God.
Wow.
You can feel the screws. You can actually feel them. And I'm like, "Holy shit. What are you doing?" And he's like, I'm fine. You can see he's in pain. You can see that he has a bit of discomfort. That didn't stop him. And right there, that showed me the type of competitor he was. You know, and you know, it wasn't gonna. In the back of my head, I knew once this guy's once he's at 100%, he's not gonna stay out of the ring that much longer. And sure enough, as soon as he was able to do some stuff, he re-signed his deal and he went back to work again. And you saw the results of WrestleMania, you know, the WrestleManias with Undertaker and
absolutely.
You know, the guys that performed.
Did you happen to be at the WrestleMania when he wrestled Undertaker?
I was at one of them. I don't remember. It wasn't that one. I was at the one at Houston.
That's the one I was talking about. Yeah, the one in Houston. I'm sorry, 25. Let me rephrase that.
Yeah. There you go. And that was the one that had all the John Cena's, right?
Well,
so
go ahead.
Did was Shawn there like after he got back with WWE? Was he ever there again, or did he just leave it to you guys?
The wrestling school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Shawn was there every day.
Whoa.
Shawn,
he was?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, this. I saw some stuff on Facebook and the internet about this, and there's this big debate about the Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy, but he was never there. He was always, you know, had a broken back. Well, Shawn was there every day. He sat in a chair. He couldn't do a whole lot, but if he really wanted to, he would get in the ring and do something. But he was there every day. If he was on Raw Monday night, he was at the gym with us Tuesday morning. He caught the red eye with a first flight. He'd get from the plane straight to the gym. We started training at 9 o'clock in the morning Monday through Friday. He was there every day. Yeah, Shawn said he didn't want to be, and I'm not knocking anybody, and I'm sure he's not knocking anybody either. He didn't want to be the guy, the superstar wrestling school, but the guy was never there. He wanted to be. It was a Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy, and he was there every day. And even though he didn't get in the ring all the time or whatever, he was there every day. He supervised everything. He had the final
point was that he was there, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
and you have to appreciate that.
It definitely, because we seen, and thanks for clearing that up too. Because I was reading, I'm like, whoa, he doesn't. That's not right. Because I was reading stuff about him not going, and then I didn't believe that. I didn't believe it, honestly. But thanks for clearing that up.
We ran, I've seen other guys wrestling school and stuff, and heard about them stuff. We ran a legitimate wrestling school. We didn't have guys. We didn't get guys in there and beat them up and blow them up and chase them off. We trained guys, and if you quit, it was because you quit on your own. We didn't do anything. Let's get Austin in there and make him run the ropes for 5 minutes. And full speed and have him do 1,000 push-ups and see if he can take it. Now, there was nothing like that. We did conditioning.
Well, it would also go back to when, because I know that there was a story told about Hiro Matsuda that he would literally work you to death, and I think he even broke Hogan's leg at one point to just get him away from the wrestling business. But that's like old school mentality. They didn't want you there because it almost mean like you're taking their spot.
Exactly. And that was, truth be known, that was the reason why Jose was let go, because Jose had that mentality, and he wanted the kids to earn their way in, and like I told Shawn, if one of these guys gets hurt, they decide to sue you. In this day and age, people will sue you for anything.
Exactly.
You lose everything. So let's treat these kids like they're athletes, and if they're, we'll treat them the best way we can, and we did, and we never aggressively or maliciously put a hand on any of the guys. We never pushed anybody. We never went to go break anyone's ankles or anything like that. We let them figure it out on their own. I can't do this, and they would quit.
Now, looking at a guy like Daniel Bryan right now, it must be like, you must be so proud to watch him. If you watch WWE, you must be so proud to watch him. Like, you helped out to make him who he is today.
Everybody says the same thing, but all I can say is I taught Brian how to take bumps. I taught him how to run the ropes. I gave him a foundation. We gave him a foundation out here, and then everything else, the style he has.
He learned on his own as he got on.
Regal or Japan, or he lived in the gym in England for a little while and learned that style but here in San Antonio, we taught him the foundation, which no matter what happens with anything else, at least he has that. And when I see him on TV, and I and that's with all the guys. When Brian Kendrick and Paul London were on Vince's TV, and when they were on TNA, and when Lance Cade was on there, when I see Shawn Hernandez on TNA, I look at him, I'm like, man, I had something to do with that guy's training, and yes, I am very proud of him.
Great.
As well, you should be. Because you had quite a great career. Overall, you think about it. You took part in it. You knew the mentality. You knew that. You know how to teach these young guys how to, like you said, set up the foundation for their careers. That's actually a really good way to look at it. And then you see the fruits of your labor as you actually got them started, and to see where they go from here. I think that's just phenomenal. It's just a testament to good work ethic on their half and learning from some of the best.
I never, when I would see these guys come in the gym, I never in my wildest dreams thought I would see Brian, Daniel Bryan, I guess, on the cover of a video game, or the cover of a magazine, or see him on reality TV or something. You see these guys walk in and you don't think that's the guy. You just, they come in and he was just like everybody else, wide-eyed and willing to learn, and
to respect that, absolutely.
I saw how these guys lived, and looking back, someone told me, hey, Bryan Danielson's worth like $2 million now, And I was like, holy shit, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, whatever, 13 years ago, the kid was living in a one-bedroom apartment with Brian Kendrick with an air mattress on the floor, and they're eating peanut butter tacos. You know?
Peanut butter tacos.
Peanut butter tacos.
I need to try that.
It's delicious.
Hashtag peanut butter tacos, folks.
And I'm like, and I went to go because we went somewhere. I would pick them up for something. I went and I you know, they invited me inside their apartment, and I looked around and like, man, these kids, they work so hard. You know, they train so hard. They never complained about nothing. I never heard them complain about being behind on rent or nothing like that. You know, God, we have no food in the apartment. Nothing like that. I never heard them complain about nothing. They just trained every day. They worked hard. They did whatever we asked them to. I never heard them once complain about, well, we don't have any money for gas. We can't pass out flyers. I never heard anything like that. They went out there and they did what they came out here and they did what they came out here for. They worked their tails off, and now Brian's, you know, he's enjoying the fruits of his labor.
Absolutely. You know, I actually wanted to ask you in regards to a question that was posted on our Facebook from an actual friend of yours that you contact quite a bit. He had mentioned that he was going to be listening in but may not be because of his health, and that'd be Chad Miller. He actually wanted me to mention something you guys were talking about at the outdoor Harlandale Stadium and Southwest Championship card that was really ahead of its time, a pre-WrestleMania era that really showed how the promoter Joe Blanchard was really ahead of his time. He says, you know, he really thinks that, you know, if you when you touched on that a little bit, but I mean, what was it like really working with a guy like Joe Blanchard? I mean, he doesn't get mentioned quite a bit, but I mean, he was definitely one of the best out there.
No doubt.
Yeah, Joe Blanchard actually had the first cable TV show. He actually had USA Wrestling on. He actually had Southwest Wrestling on the USA Network, and then as the story goes, Vince bought out his time space and took over. But Joe, you know, anyone you can talk to anybody in the wrestling in the industry from back then. Joe was a very fair man, easy to work for, but he was about business. As a matter of fact, when I came into the office and I told him I want to get into I want to learn the wrestling business, he took a few minutes to chew me out about it because I was supposed to be going to college, and but then he sat me and I said, okay, you need to be here every day at 9:00, and I'm going to teach you the business. At the same time, your job is going to be to make sure the floors are mopped at the junction where we did TV. Your job is to make sure the ring gets set up properly. You're going to pass out flyers. And he told me the whole 9 yards. Every guy I've ever talked to, Ricky Morton, Dick Slater, Wahoo McDaniel, Manny Fernandez, Chavo, you know, he passed away last March. But every guy I've ever talked to has nothing but respect for Mr. Blanchard. I've never heard anybody say a bad word about him.
Absolutely.
You know, he had this thing called the event here at one of our football stadiums, and it was like, you know, this was back in the territory days. So he would pull in guys from different areas, like down here the main tag team guys were the sheep herders. So he brought in
Bushwhackers.
The Bushwhackers. So he brought in the Rock and Roll Express from Mid-Atlantic Wrestling to come and challenge him for the tag titles. The big feud in Florida was Blackjack Mulligan and Kevin Sullivan. So he brought Blackjack Mulligan and Kevin Sullivan down here for that show. I mean, he brought in Randy Savage came in. He brought in all the heavy hitters for this big show. It was called The Event, and it was going to be a yearly thing. Yeah, this was pre-WrestleMania, and he did a couple of those events. I was on one of them, and then, like I said, Vince took over his TV time, and then he ended up shutting down the promotion a little while after that.
Now, let me ask you, looking back on your career, I mean, if you could look back, do you see any regrets? Anything that you might have done differently on your career? I mean, anything that you would keep the same, or would you basically keep everything the same the way it is and continue and enjoy life as you go?
Honestly, no. I I could say I regret not finishing school and being that football coach guy, but if I went back to school, I wouldn't be in this business. I wouldn't have come across the guys like Brian Danielson and Brian Kendrick and Lance Cade. I wouldn't have traveled the country like I have. I wouldn't meet guys like the Crockett's. I wouldn't have met Luthez. I wouldn't have met Nick Bockwinkel and the people that I've come across down the road, and again, when I met these guys, Rudy, this is Bobby Heenan. How you doing, Mr. Heenan? How you doing, Rudy? Now I'm like, holy shit, I met Bobby Heenan at one point,
one door actually closed with that the school and the teaching thing. Another opportunity opened for you. So I'm sure that's a blessing for you in disguise. I mean, things could have been differently, but you think about it, be like, well, if you didn't do it, you wouldn't have had these opportunities, these chances to do what you've done and have a good time while you were doing it, and
sure.
take part in just setting up the foundation. I have to take that word from you. I'm sorry. I think the foundation for these young guys to set the road for them, and then just see how far they go and how far they've come so far. And I would say I definitely don't think you're not. You're definitely proud of what you got. No doubt about that.
Oh, by far, yeah. I mean, it's fun to see guys make it so far on very little, and see guys that had things given to them not make it very far at all. And then those guys say, "Oh man, I never had a chance." And I'm like, really? You're going to tell me you didn't have a chance? You had everything handed to you. How can you complain? Just the people I've come across, I have no complaints.
Mm-hmm. And everything happens for a reason. So I mean, there's if the certain events that didn't happen the way it did, and certain things, certain outcomes wouldn't have been, what they were. And it just, I think that, like I always say this phrase that what's the point of living if you don't at least do something remarkable? And you've definitely done something remarkable with your career. I mean, it's pretty amazing. There's not many people who actually go out and do what they want to do in life.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I tell everybody I was blessed. I was blessed in that I was part of the territory days. The old, now guys, you hear guys talking about, man, I wish I was around during the territories. I was there, and I saw how it worked, and I was there when the territories ended. I saw, WWE or WWF emerge into the big company that it is. I was part of WCW for a little while, and I saw that company get shut down. I went to Mexico for a little while. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff through the years, and some of the guys that I come across now, they're like, I wish I got to be part of this. Well, I did, and I'm not putting anybody's face. It's just I was just very fortunate. I was very fortunate to be part of some of that stuff.
Very true, very true. I mean, you definitely couldn't be more prouder. Now, if fans want to keep up with what you're up to, I mean, are you still running the school now?
Yeah, I still have the Wrestling Academy. I mean, I don't see that. I don't know. Not everybody can be a WWE superstar, but I mean, to me, the independents are like the territories back then. And I've had a lot of kids come through that, they're on the verge of getting noticed by somebody, but they're missing something, and no one knows what really that something is. It's just something's just missing. And so, I mean, as long as I can produce guys that can come out and contribute to the business and not just be some smart aleck kid, well, I'm not going to do this for nobody. I'm not going to job no. I'm not, as long as I can produce kids that can come to the business and contribute and in a positive way, I'll be doing this for a while, at least for a couple more years.
Now, if they want to keep track of what you're up to at the school and just what you're up to in general, because I know you've definitely got a fan base. I know you do. Chad is definitely one of them because he's definitely he has said nothing but wonderful things about you. If they want to keep up with what you're up to today in this day and age, do you keep up with social media? I believe you. Austin told me you had a Facebook. Do you keep up with any other aspect of? Pardon?
I have the Rudy Boy Gonzalez Facebook. My email address, TexasWrestlingAcademy_SA@yahoo.com. The Texas Wrestling Academy has a Facebook. Our promotion, Texas Wrestling Entertainment, has a Facebook. So, yeah, there's several ways to see what I'm doing.
And who knows, maybe we can send Austin your way to have him kind of work out with you a little bit. What you think, Austin?
Hey, only a few years until then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I don't think Mr. Gonzalez is going anywhere, so. But
you never know.
Exactly. I might get on the phone with Austin one day. He'd be like, "Yeah, I'm here with Mr. Gonzalez, and he's making me do bumps, and he's just kicking my butt. But you know what? I love it."
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't want to be trained by anybody else. I mean, really, thank you. I respect you so much. Like you have no clue. Thank you so much.
Definitely, thank you for the education, Mr. Gonzalez. We really do appreciate it because the territory days were definitely some of the best times in wrestling. A lot of people will agree with that. Be able to live through it and experience what you have, I can only imagine how much fun it was for you. And to look back and be like, wow,
Definitely.
Did I really do that? Wow. But on behalf of Austin, I want to thank you so much for taking time tonight and chat with us about your career in wrestling and what you're doing now. I think we had a blast. I'm hoping you had a blast too.
Sure, every time. I mean, whenever you guys want to tap in and see what's going on, just let me know, and I'll be more than happy to come back on here.
Most definitely.
Absolutely. We definitely will touch bases with you maybe sometime in 2014.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Well, then we thank you so much, and we hope you enjoy your night. Once again, Mr. Rudy Boy Gonzalez, a Texas wrestling legend, and if you don't think so, get in the ring with him. Let's see what you think.
You guys have a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
You too, sir.
You too, sir. Bye-bye.